without the static. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yeah. Ooh. Hello. Yeah. I was just going to say, we don't got no stinking static here. We just got, I think the gain's too high or something. It just sounds, no stinking static. A little, I don't know. What do I know? Anyway, hope you can hear me, and hope you're staying warm on this day. Gosh, it's the Ides of March. Well, I guess you could have a day like this in March. So, my son comes running down the stairs last night. Mom, Rachel Maddow has Trump's tax returns. Well, I went nuts. He was not exactly a totally reliable source in this regard, but drip, drip, drip. Here's the thing. Fascinating, in fact, because the tax returns, as the two summary pages of his 2005 individual tax return, or his marital, I guess Melania's on, whatever her name is, at the same time. They don't show a rich guy trying to dodge taxes very much. I mean, it's actually makes him look like a very law-abiding billionaire, making use of deductions that are available to use. I was very disappointed to see them. I mean, he paying a 24% effective 24% tax rate. Okay. Which, of course, then leads a lot of people, and I suspect the smarter ones, to, including the guy whose mailbox this summary page ended up in, to suggest that it's probably Trump himself who said, get this out. So the leaker in this case, I think an awful lot of people do think is Donald Trump. When you think of all the millions of pages of tax returns that these two were put out, which show him being a pretty good citizen that year, when we certainly know of other years in which he managed to pay nothing. But, well, the fact that I'm assuming Trump or someone in his camp leaked these shows just what strange territory we're in. The reality is we don't have a clue what's really going on anymore. Maybe we never did, but not to this extent. Not to this extent. And these, I mean, of all the presidents that we have had, all of whom have proffered their tax returns, his are the only ones we need to see. And of course, that's why we're not seeing them. That's why we're not seeing them. What we need to see are the more current ones. Want to see how entangled he is with foreign entities, how much a conflict of interest exists. Do the Russians own him? Do the, which oligarchs own him? And that's why he doesn't want us to see him. There's never been another president that's had these kinds of business dealings. So, frankly, there's never been another president whose tax returns we needed to see as much as this guy's. So, I don't know, underwhelming. An interesting thing is, though, that he did use what's called the alternative minimum tax, and that was a something put in, I'm sure, when there were Democrats in the Congress, which prevents gazillionaires from literally not having to ever pay any taxes. It caps, I guess, the amount of losses they can claim, so that they have to pay something. And and somebody did the numbers and said that he paid out $36.5 million in income tax in 2005, and almost all of it was in the form of the alternative minimum tax, meaning that if that hadn't been law, and I don't think it's been law, I think it was passed sometime in the 70s, he would have had to pay next to nothing. I know he paid $36.5 million in taxes. No, I mean, do the math. I mean, just do the math. It's a perfectly reasonable a tax, and he would have paid nothing, really, if we didn't have that ATM. And someone else pointed out that, he keeps saying he's being audited. That is not, the IRS can neither confirm nor deny that he's being audited, which I did not realize, which means that he could just be saying he's being audited and therefore, which is also not true. Even if you're being audited, you can share your return. So, drip, 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 drip. And because every day brings with it 2 or 3 huge stories that would have in normal times lasted us for months of speculation and cable TV punditry, now it's coming so fast and so furiously that I had this thought last night that if there is a method to this madness, that it is meant to literally exhaust and overwhelm us. Exhaust and overwhelm we the people, and exhaust and overwhelm the media, who just can't keep up. I mean, you move, and some suggesting again that he puts out these 2 pages that make him look like a pretty good billionaire, when he's got a lot of other fires that are threatening to consume him. And so that this is just another way to confuse, distract away from the what is increasingly looking like a disastrous health care, Obamacare repeal and replace debacle. Oh, the machinations that are going on. Breitbart, a.k.a. Bannon, releasing that old audio of Speaker Ryan saying he'll never support Trump and help Trump, and how he thinks Trump is a disastrous nominee. That was known, but the reminder of it put out by Breitbart / Bannon, obviously an effort to take Ryan down. I think they see him as very vulnerable since he's the chief author and cheerleader of this disastrous repeal and replace measure. And so you have that whole crowd calling it Ryan Care, because they sure as hell don't want it called Trump Care. Donald Trump, who is it? Schumer, I think, said. So true. Wait a minute. Donald Trump puts his name on everything, on buildings, on ties, on daycare centers, on steaks. And this is the one thing he won't put his name on? The one thing he won't put his name on, which he does, in fact, own. Trump Care. Unbelievable. Okay. Let's take a break from all of this for a minute, okay? Let's do an obit. I love this obit, and how out of it am I that I didn't really know about this woman? Mother Divine. Mother Divine is dead. She lived to the grand old age of 91 years old. Her story should be made into a film. I can't believe that it hasn't in some manner. I don't know. Maybe you guys know of her, but wait till you hear this life. So she was just a regular, ordinary human being, and she was Canadian. I think she was born in Vancouver or something. And during the Depression, she starts hearing about this guy named Father Divine. And Father Divine was a black man in Philly who became one of these charismatic leaders of essentially a cult called the International Peace Mission Movement. And his wife at the time, Sister Penny, was Mother Divine at that point. And she died and he kept it a secret. Nobody knew that the wife was dead until one day at a big to-do, Father Divine, announced the following. Let me see if I can find this exactly. He unveiled the new incarnation of Sister Penny. And strangely, no one had known Sister Penny wasn't around, and now Sister Penny was being unveiled as this really tall, blonde-haired white woman. And he said this: "This is a marriage that will be chaste, a marriage in name only, because God is not married, because God is him." And he said, this big, tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman that is his wife but not his wife is actually Sister Penny, who was black. You know what? As I was reading about him and the story, I kept thinking, he's just like Donald Trump. I mean, this is a guy who flat out tells people, you see this big white woman? She's really the little black woman who you knew and loved as Sister Penny. Anyway, the new Mother Divine was really Edna Rose Richings. She was 21 years old. She'd gone to Philly to try to meet him when she became enamored of his church. And she took the name Sweet Angel. And she worked as a stenographer at a costume jewelry shop. And then somehow finagled her way into Father Divine's place, and he hired her almost immediately as his personal stenographer. And all of a sudden, his late wife, Sister Penny, somehow took over the body of the Sweet Angel, Edna, from Vancouver, the stenographer. Okay? We got this? So, a lot of his followers, most of whom were black, were a little freaked, obviously, when they're looking at this big, tall white woman and they're told she's really Sister Penny. And but the thing is that Father Divine considered the issue of race to be sinful. He said there was no such thing as race. He also said you're not supposed to have sex. But even so, the appearance of this white replacement came as a bit of a shock to the members of the peace mission movement and to the black news media. But Mother Divine, Sweet Angel, Edna from Vancouver, made a striking impression. Here's what the Philadelphia Inquirer reported. I mean, this was big at the time. Here's what the Philadelphia Inquirer reported. This would be, 1950 something or other. She wore no makeup, but her blonde hair was waved and beautifully arranged, accentuating her blue eyes and a profile of classic regularity. Of good figure. She wore a flowered dress in lavender green on cream, set off by a gold brooch on her bosom, and 2 rings, one a large diamond. This is how women were reported on. They simply picked apart everything from your hair to your eyes to your profile to the clothes you were wearing, and that was the sum of you. Anyway, there's the sum of Sweet Angel. And the fact of the matter is, though, is Father Divine had a little bit of a problem on his hands because a lot of his disciples were having a real big problem with this. And so they demanded some kind of clarification. Here is his clarification. And here is where I thought, he's Donald Trump. I'm beginning to think that Donald Trump, his body has been taken over by Father Divine, and they may, in fact, be the same person. Here's what Father Divine offered by way of clarification for how all of a sudden his dead black wife became a 6-foot-tall, blonde-haired white woman named Sweet Angel. Quote, Father Divine, "The individual is the personification of that which expresses personification. Therefore, she, comes to be personally the expression of that which was impersonal, and she is the personal expression of it and the personification of the pre-personification of God Almighty. Peace, it's wonderful." Anyone who could follow that sentence is either stark raving mad or a genius. I'm going to give it real fast again. The individual is the personification of that which expresses personification. Therefore, he comes to be personally the expression of that which was impersonal, and he is the personal expression of it and the personification of the pre-personification of God Almighty. You got that? Apparently, after a while, I guess his zealot followers took it in. And here's the weird thing. In the 1930s, during the Depression, he got rich. And he got rich and powerful by opening social service places, feeding hungry people, right? That's a real smart way to get people to love you. Provide cheap meals, provide a helping hand here and there for something. He attracted a huge following in Harlem, but he was headquartered in Philly. And one of the things was that if you became a member, you had to turn over your worldly possessions. Guess who? To whom? It would be, of course, to Father Divine and Sweet Angel. And so people who belonged to his church not only gave him everything they had, which is why they might need a free meal, I guess, but they also gave him their earnings, and he turned around and bought huge swaths of real estate, big, huge hotels. Is this not sounding like Donald Trump? I'm asking you. I really am thinking that Father Divine is back, that he's taken over the body of Donald Trump. They talk the same. They operate the same. They tell you outrageous lies right to your face, and then they double down on them. Anyway, as we came out of the Depression, his mighty empire started to wane some. And then when the civil rights movement came in, that harmed him further. And then, get this, in 1971, Jim Jones, does that ring a bell? Jonestown? In 1971, Jim Jones, who had borrowed many of his ideas from Father Divine, tried to take over. Jim Jones took a run at the peace mission. And by the way, Father Divine was dead by that point. And the person running the whole thing was sweet, blonde angel, Mother Divine. And Jim Jones got 200 of his followers on buses. They went to Philly from California, and they attended the weekly banquet at the Divine Lorraine Hotel. And after listening to praise offered by his disciples, Jim Jones rose up with Mother Divine right there and said, "Father Divine has conferred his mantle on me. We are from the same celestial plane and are messengers. His spirit has come to rest in my body." Now, what Mother Divine said is not quoted here, unfortunately, but I think it must have amounted to something like, "The hell it is," because she chased Jim Jones and his people out of her hotel. And he continued a 6-year campaign of sabotage to take over Father Divine's church. It only ended with the mass suicide in Guyana in 1978. Mother Divine kept living in this unbelievable French Gothic mansion built by a steel baron called Woodmont, sitting on 73 lush acres until her death, which was just the other day. Mother Divine, 91 years old, is gone. Who her spirit takes up residence in is at this point unknown. Some people live interesting lives, don't they? Odd. Really odd. Father Divine looks a little like Representative Elijah Cummings. And she looks, I don't know, she's at least a foot taller than him. Can't make it up. Henry, let me get to your emails here, guys. Trump's 2005 tax return, Henry writes, of which we only saw those 2 cover pages, doesn't tell us really much of anything, was a very safe return to disclose. I agree. And I fully believe that Trump's own people hand-selected that particular return and sent it anonymously. Yeah, I do too. The rest of the return would have disclosed so much more, so convenient that only the first 2 pages were leaked. I agree. But the danger of them leaking it is then it shows that, okay, you showed us this, and you claim that because you're under audit, you can't show us anything. So he's opened the door a little bit for people to suggest that that obviously is not true. You were willing to show this, which puts you in a really good light. How about showing us the rest? So, man, the games that are being played at the highest levels. Wow. Bob in Braddock writes, God bless Rachel Maddow for finally covering Trump's tax returns. By the way, I want to say this. I've watched her show more than I ever have recently. And she is like some of the comedians. I think like John Oliver. I think she's a born teacher. She doesn't do the huge personality, hit him with the straw. She's really trying to educate. She starts at the beginning and takes you, showing you. She doesn't just say, he's corrupt as hell. She tells you step by step the story in a very understandable manner. And if you're doing what I suggest we all do, which is ration our intake, that would not be a bad hour to commit to for information. Rachel Maddow, MSNBC. Anyway, Bob writes, God bless Rachel Maddow for finally uncovering Trump's tax returns, but Trump's fucked up presidency is getting to the point where if I want to see what bullshit Trump is doing in the White House, I do two things. One, I listen or watch your show. Or two, when I'm able to listen to you at my house, which I'm doing now, I flip between watching and listening to you and watching reruns of a politically related show that is sort of a mirror image of the Trump administration. The TV show from the late 70s and 80s that I'm sure you remember when it was on network TV, Benson. I mean, I remember that was Was Benson in politics? See, I never watched sitcoms. Huh. He goes on, I hope in your new much-deserved studio at the Point Park Center for Media Innovation, I had to look, I forgot what it stood for, you'll still be able to say every now and then to the people who helped put this in Pittsburghese, jag off onto 1600 Pennsylvania. What? I'm not quite sure about that. Why is this? Okay. This mouse is a strange mouse. This thing. It goes. Okay. So anyway, yeah, you guys. Thank you. For a lot of people, distraction for the next few weeks is going to be March Madness, college basketball. I think I might just blindly fill out a bracket. I don't know anything about any of them. Just to have something to, distract me. And here's a little tidbit, a factoid I came upon, which really sort of blew my mind. There's so many pools that people are in at their workplaces and stuff. And I guess this is behind the fact I'm about to give you. Americans will wager more than $10 billion on the NCAA tournament this year. $10 billion in play. And the vast majority of it, obviously, illegally. And you know what they wager on the Super Bowl? Not even quite $5 billion. So the NCAA, the NCAA, thought I said the NAACP. The NCAA garners twice as much wagering than the Super Bowl. Fascinating. Okay. Yesterday, we were trying to figure out amongst us how Christians, if they were considered themselves Christian, how they could get behind the pure selfish evil of so much of Republican policy. We were trying to figure it. I got mine, go ahead, you try to get yours and don't expect me to help you on the way. And then I came upon this story, and I'm in The Atlantic by Peter Beinart, and a lot of it I find a little difficult to buy into, but he has some interesting facts here that certainly address this issue we were talking about. He says, and this is research from the Public Religion Research Institute, he says the percentage of white Republicans who have no religious affiliation has almost tripled since 1990. Now we know, secularism is on the rise, and that's part of one of the things that freaks a lot of people on the right out. But if you think that the people who aren't going to church are, slackers and people of ill repute, what they're saying here is that no, a lot of them are the very white Republicans who voted for Donald Trump, which might then suggest why the pussy grabber in chief and all his hateful thing didn't bother them one bit. If they're asked, what religion are you? They say, I'm a Christian. They might even say, I'm an evangelical Christian. But do they go to church? A lot of them do not. And so this helps reconcile this thing that was so confusing to a lot of people, is how could people go to a church and then come out and vote for Donald Trump? But Trump does his best among evangelicals, that is true. What the piece of information we didn't necessarily have is that an awful lot of them never set foot in a church. And then add in these facts. Conservative white Americans, Trump voters, who are also disengaged from any church community, also show less economic success, more family breakdown, and they are, when questioned, more resentful, more pessimistic. Again, it sounds like Trump voters, right? Since the early 70s, the rate of religious attendance have fallen more than twice as much among whites without a college degree as among whites who graduated from college. Again, okay, so religious attendance really down among whites without a college degree who, well, we know that is Trump's mainstay. The facts also show that the worse that Americans are faring in these times, the darker their view of the country, of the government, of everything is. But of course, that makes some sense. But according to this same survey, white Republicans who never or seldom attend religious services are 19 points less likely than those who do attend church to say that the American dream is alive. They don't believe it. So it explains. I mean, so this is just a part of. It's not everything. It's not, if you went to church, you wouldn't have voted for Trump. It's not that. But it does show that people who identify as white evangelicals might never set foot in a church. It just might be the tradition that they come from. But as for membership in that community, no. What they have is a sense of pessimism and bitterness that things didn't turn out like they were supposed to. And another interesting thing is this fact. When these people disengage from their Christian churches, they become less hostile to gays, which is to say that those who go to church are more hostile to gays. But it's not that they all of a sudden become tolerant by not going to church. They just switch. The church tends to talk about the sin of homosexuality, so they turn from that a little more, and they instead become intolerant more and hostile to immigrants, African Americans, Latinos, Muslims. The less you attend church, the more bigoted, xenophobic you are, except for the gays. I don't know what that's about. It's just a fact, so they say. So, I don't know what any of that means, but I pass it on to you. Excuse me. I don't know how to handle this damn thing as well as I did the other one. There was a little bar here. Am I seeing all my... Okay, I guess. No, I'm not. Okay, guys. Barbara writes, and then there's this, the fundamentalists are fawning over Putin's putative turn toward God. Oh, yeah. For instance, according to Brian Fisher, who until 2015 was a spokesman for the American Family Association, as right-wing bigoted an outfit as you'll ever find, according to him, Putin is the lion of Christianity. Evangelical Franklin Graham has likewise lauded Putin as someone protecting traditional Christianity. I know my metaphor of having fallen down the rabbit hole is getting really tired. I've been using it for 20 years, but Jesus, God in heaven, this is... I don't see, I don't, by the way, the phone number, 412-200-5686, 412-200-5686. I don't know if you happened to see the other day that the president's totally dumb son, Eric Trump, said just the other day, this is how stupid this idiot is, I think our brand is the hottest it's ever been. I mean, it was just flat out publicly celebrating how his family is making out like bandits ever since Dad got in the White House. The corruption of this family is so overwhelming that you don't even know where to start. Today in the Times, there's this front page story about how the Kushners, that'd be Jared, the son-in-law, and his family's holdings, have just apparently negotiated the sweetest deal of the century with a Chinese insurance company with really tight ties to leading families in the Communist Party there. The Chinese guy's going to give them almost $500 million for part ownership of a nondescript building they own on Fifth Avenue. Jared Kushner, as you know, is in the White House. He pretty much is running that business. The president of China is coming to meet with Trump next month. You don't think that the fact that there are all, remember the trademarks, the patents, trademarks they were, that all of a sudden Trump got recently from the Chinese government, which everybody said, wow, they gave him what? 38 in a day? Nobody ever gives, what? And apparently he's gotten some more from Mexico, too. These guys, they're just cashing in left and right with people and governments buying their favor. This is why we need the tax returns. This is the most conflicted. This is a guy in the White House with such divided loyalties. And I don't know about you, but my sense of him is that he is much more loyal to himself and his family and their holdings than he is to us, the people of the United States of America, which is supposedly supposed to be his greatest allegiance. God almighty. Every time you turn around, there's another thing. Do you know diplomats are tripping all over themselves, foreign diplomats, in his Washington hotel? They spend as much money as they can. They buy the most expensive wine, hoping news of it. And apparently there is somebody at the hotel that does note it. Oh, this Malaysian guy bought 2,400 bottles of wine at dinner the other day. Whose pocket does that go into? Trump recently told the EPA to roll back regulations, right, on drinking water supplies, having to do with, pollution and chemical runoff and all kinds of other things. And this will totally benefit him and his golf courses. He has sued 1 million times for these environmental regulations which annoy him and cost him money. Now, as president, he can say, get rid of that. Get rid of that. I already told you how, after suing the Palm Beach airport a gazillion times because their planes flew right over his Mar-a-Lago. He built it, right? I mean, he didn't build it. He bought it. And the airport was there, right? And now that he's president, the planes can't fly over there, which is something he was trying to get as a private citizen through suing, through lawsuits left and right. And then there's that extraordinary story. I hope you read about it. The New Yorker did a piece. Man, it will curl your hair, about how he was involved in a hotel. There's a residential, I think, apartment building in Azerbaijan that is being developed by just these mafia. Oh no, they make the mafia look like Boy Scouts, by these just scum of the earth. And there's no reason for that building to be where it is. It's not in a place that would, it's got to all be a giant kind of a scam. He's right in there. And the family doing it has ties to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. This is your president. So even as we speak, there are 3 courtrooms in this country, all hearing arguments about his latest executive order, which goes into effect today. There are still efforts about the Muslim ban, the new rejiggered one. And as I speak, lawyers are very busy in this Trump era. And we will see if any judges put a stop to this one. In fact, one of the judges that did, the judge in Washington State, is hearing another case. There's a judge in Hawaii hearing one, and I forget where the third is, but there is an effort to stop it. By the way, I just want to point out, and I think Rachel Maddow last night pointed this out. So Trump buys a house, a mansion in Florida. He pays like $40 million for it or something. And he turns around and sells it to this Russian oligarch for something like $400 million or something. Maybe I got the numbers wrong, but it's mind-blowing. Why would a Russian oligarch overpay that much? Well, if you give somebody way more than they know that thing is worth. By the way, the oligarch never he tore it down, never moved in, never anything, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't mean anything to him. Bit of an investment, but much more an investment in access to. This is a guy who's a Putin buddy. This is the guy whose private jet keeps strangely ending up in the same airports that Trump's jet was. This was during the campaign. Have you ever seen those pictures? Again, Rachel Maddow on it. And this nifty little deal that the Kushners are now negotiating with this Chinese guy would value this ugly building they own at 666 Fifth Avenue, would value it at a higher value than anyone in the market in New York real estate says it was so far over what it's worth. It's the same kind of thing. Why would you give billions more than it's worth? Well, because Jared Kushner is the president of the United States' son-in-law. They are saying that the property is worth $7 billion. And that would make it the most valuable property in Manhattan. It's bull. If I were to show you a picture, you'd say, It's absolutely undistinguishable from a million other high-rises. But it has that je ne sais quoi. to the President of the United States of America. Remember that strange word emoluments, which we didn't know existed, and then we learned about it because Trump became president, and how there's a clause saying that no president can benefit financially from a foreign entity? Remember that? The stench of corruption here is mind-boggling. Tell me about all the congressional investigations that are going on about this. Huh? Tell me. Wow. We, the taxpayers, have spent as much for Donald Trump to spend every weekend playing golf at one of his golf courses. We have spent more on that than we spent on Barack Obama's travels in a year. We have already spent more this year. And you got this Trump administration cutting budgets left and right. Screw the EPA, screw this and screw that, screw HUD, screw Medicaid, screw poor people, screw everybody, but give me money so that I can travel whenever I want with the entire retinue and all the security. And by the way, we've already spent more on him going to Mar-a-Lago on weekends than we did on Obama in a year. And I'm not adding in all the travel and security costs of Eric, who's gallivanting all over the world, and Donald Jr., who's doing the same, and Melania and Barron, Melania, what a first lady, I gotta say. Has she done anything? Now, granted, it's a volunteer position, and as a feminist, I would say it's a bullshit thing, I guess, in many ways. She doesn't want to do it, she's not doing it, right? If that were a Democrat, God, oh, dear. Oh. Unbelievable. So we're paying as much for her to stay in New York City, which is also footing huge bills for screwing the whole city up. These people. I don't think I'm going to have time to do this thing I wanted to do. Okay, let's get to you guys. Lou, thanks for all the interesting facts. Some of it will stick. The Putin biz is scary. Yeah. Putin is scary. Brooke says, you are right. Trying to keep up with the storm of stories swirling around the Trump White House is almost like having a second job. Absolutely is. And there's no way we can all, without losing our mind, stay up on it. Brooke says, daily we're saturated with great investigative reporting, breaking news that breaks every hour. Sean Spicer's daily news conference, Trump's tweets. Is it their strategy to overwhelm us to the point where we go into hiding? Well, that was the thought I had last night, that, if there is method to this madness, maybe that's what it is. Just keep at it until finally they all check into rehab somewhere. Or they just, they run screaming naked into the forests. I mean, like, he's trying to make us insane. There's no way to keep up with it all. But God bless these dogged journalists. God bless them. There is our hope. That is our hope. And by the way, Sean Spicer and these things, I don't even think they should cover him anymore. He just lies. He just lies. Everything he says is a lie. Sort of like Trump, sort of like half his cabinet. Everything they say is simply not true. Is there method to that madness? Destroy the truth. Create your own. I am told that is what happens if you live in a totalitarian country. You have to march to whatever the great leader says. If he says it's sunny outside, even if there's a monsoon, it's sunny outside, or you're dead. There's some extraordinary, I'm saying extraordinary a lot, it's starting to bug me. There's an amazing number of people who live in this world today who do live under such conditions. I saw a number once. It's a big hunk of humanity. Can you imagine living with that level of sort of cognitive dissonance where you know something is true, but you cannot act on it or show it for fear you'll be detained, killed, silenced, whatever? I mean, can you imagine? Chuck writes, I've never been a fan of Lindsey Graham nor John McCain, but they are certainly doing a good job casting some doubt on this administration. Yeah, tepid, I must say. I mean, if they really wanted to, especially McCain, what the hell does he have to lose? He just got reelected. He's got a 6-year term. He should be much stronger than he is in his condemnation. Much. Chuck says we need more that kind of resistance from the Republican Party. And now we are starting to see some division between the Trump administration and Paul Ryan, specifically on the healthcare issue. Yeah, but I don't know. What you're seeing is Republicans mostly looking after their own interests. And for some of them, their own interest means saying, I don't like that health care bill since, 40% of my constituents are on Obamacare, and under this thing, they're going to lose it, and they're going to get nothing in return. And then those who are in totally safe districts who think it's too liberal, I think, the Republican. I don't know. I've never seen so many profiles in sheer cravenness, cowardice. These are not honorable people. These are the kind of role models that you can hold up to a child and say, this is what a bad man or woman looks like. This is not ever what I want you to be. That's the only service I can see them providing. All right. I think that's it. Hey, I have to tell you this, and I know I got to learn how not to do it. But by the end of the show, I have a headache. At the end of every show, I have a headache. I hope you don't. I'll carry it for you. Don't worry. I'll take the headache. But, whoa, I do. Anyway, stay warm. stay alive, stay hopeful, and join the resistance. peoplepower.org. Check it out. See you tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.